I spent most of this course photographing architecture, using a variety of equipment and techniques and applying various aesthetics and ideas to the work. But over time I decided I wanted a lot more intimate view of buildings. So in a different module I personalised and created this series called Homelight, which was a much more personal examination of buildings and place. I photographed my own home and found it was an exploration not only of my home but also of myself, and it was a good way to look into myself a lot more. And the idea with these kind of images is that you can get a sense of a person through their home. I think everybody feels that their home reflects their personality in some way, and home really tells you something about how a person views the world, what's important to them, what they spend time doing when they're on their own. And I want to use these images of home to create an alternative form of portraiture. So these will be portraits of people that I know. I'm going to choose 5 people, and I'm going to experience the people through their homes with my camera, and that's going to come across in the final images in the final product. It's almost going to be a form of performance piece in a way. Each stage is really deliberate and contributes to the piece. So right from I'm going to make the cameras, because I'm going to use pinhole cameras, and all the way through it's going to be a very physical experience for me, the photographer. One of the reasons I'm doing this is because I believe you can really get to know someone better through taking images of them and of their home. And the people I'm going to choose are going to be based on people that I'd like to get to know even better or to experience in a different way. So I've decided to use a pinhole camera to do this. There's a number of reasons for this. I've created work with pinhole cameras in the past, and I find it's a really interesting way of getting to know a space and getting to know a home. It's really basic, and everything's from the camera's viewpoint, not mine. Pinhole camera work requires longer exposures, so it needs really careful consideration before you create any image. You want to be sure of what you're doing, and it means that my experience of the shoot extends, and I have a much deeper experience of it. So I'm making homemade cameras, basic pinhole cameras with wood, and using 5x4 clips to use with direct print paper. And this is part of the process, creating the cameras, taking them with me, showing them to people. So I'm going to get direct prints from these cameras in black and white. I've done this before, and it worked incredibly well in terms of the actual images, the texture of them, the feel of light and shadow, and the contrast that's in them. And I find it interesting how it skips the negative stage. So pinhole cameras are often made from repurposed household objects like this Coke tin and a book and a coffee can and things like that. But I'd like to turn that around and deliberately create a camera that then afterwards, after it's been used, becomes a household object. I'm going to leave it in the house. It's up to the participant what they do with it. So overall, this is designed to be less about pure architecture and more about how a building becomes a living part of life, how we adapt to buildings and how we adapt them for ourselves. From the earliest cave paintings, we've been altering our shelters to suit our lives and personalities. As in a previous module, I'm still going to focus on light and shadow in particular, as I really feel these are what create emotion within the home. I'd like to spend longer in each dwelling to experience the light and the way it changes throughout the day. I might even return on another day with different weather so I can experience different forms of light within the home. There are a number of influences on this work, sociological and psychological influences, such as lots of reading that I've been doing on psychogeography and place and space. And it's important for me to be engaged in this intellectual side of things, as well as the more emotional side when I'm actually visiting the places. Other influences include photography influences such as pinhole camera work, like these works by John Grepstad, works like this project by Magnum, all about home, and other works that focus on buildings but try to look a lot more into the emotional ties we have with buildings, like these books. So I see this project eventually becoming a gallery, and I'd like to try and design it in a way that potentially separates each home into different little sections. I was really influenced by works like Carrie Thompson's Waiting Room, and using the space to really add to the concept. So the intention for the audience is to experience a portrait of a person through their home, and it's an alternative form of portraiture. It's going to look at a home through this communication formed by the direct prints. So there's not a lot of steps between the home and the audience at the end. The homeowner is going to see their home through someone else's point of view, and they're going to be able to see themselves in a different way through their home. They're also going to experience having the camera afterwards, because it's going to be left with them, and they're going to experience the camera as an object with just one specific purpose. Either photographer, I'm also going to have a number of different experiences. And a key element here is that the audience is never going to see a traditional portrait of the person. They're never going to see their face. They're only going to experience the participant through their home. And this is quite different in a world of selfies, and we all take pictures of ourselves all the time. So the next steps are going to be deciding which people to ask and finding the first one. I've got a few people lined up. I need to finish building the first camera, it's nearly there, and then I need to complete the first home experience, create the first images. I also need to continue to research a lot of ideas and look at the wider critical context. Thanks for listening.